Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you, and I welcome you all to this current affairs session. Let's get started with the class. Before starting, I would like to tell you briefly about the approach of this particular session. So here we take the current affairs of last 1 week, and today we are going to cover the current affairs of 29 July to 4th of August. Now this entire session is divided in two parts, that is the articles specific for the prelims examination and the articles specifically important for mains examination. Articles important for prelims and mains examination we see separately. Now first guys, we are going to see the articles that are important for the prelims examination, the mains examination. Also in this particular session, you'll find that there is a mains practice question also that we have given. You'll find the mains practice question in the last. You'll find the mains practice question in the last. Okay, so let's get started with this particular session. Now, before I start, guys, there is one very important development that has happened in just 2-3 days back. Supreme Court's verdict on sub-classification of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community. Now, this particular article I have already covered. Okay, this I have already covered. I have made an entire separate video where from scratch I have discussed it. So I will recommend you that I think it is just some 15-16 minutes video that is there. You just go and you watch that, because this is a very important topic for your mains examination, and there are a lot of angles, lot of other judgments, etc. that is there. So I have made it separately. Okay, so please watch that particular video. Now guys, moving on in this particular direction, let's get started. Okay, so the first article that we are going to take is right to be forgotten. Right to be forgotten. Now, guys, with respect to the right to be forgotten, there was this particular article that was there in the Indian Express paper, and there are many articles on right to be forgotten that have been there in the news. So we are going to discuss it. Now, first of all, guys, before we move in this particular article, there are some basic background information that I would like to share with you. Some basic background information is there. Okay. So, okay. So you see this particular thing that when we talk about the right to be forgotten. So right to be forgotten is the part of right to privacy. Now, when we talk about India in Puttaswamy case, in Puttaswamy case, in Puttaswamy case, Supreme Court recognized right to privacy as a fundamental right under Article 21. And because the right to privacy was recognized as the fundamental right under Article 21, there was, in fact, government constituted a BN Shri Krishna committee to recommend the privacy framework in the context of India. It recommended the data privacy bill that government introduced, but government withdrew it. Then government introduced another bill on the data privacy, which recently got passed. Now, right to be forgotten, it flows from the right to privacy. Right to be forgotten means that a person can request that some public details about them should be removed from the public. If there is some interview that is on the social media, it should be removed. So basically, right to be forgotten sometimes is also called as right to erasure. It is sometimes also called as right to erasure. So now let's see what is the situation with respect to the right to be forgotten and right to erasure. What is the situation in India? Let's understand that particular thing. So when we talk about right to be forgotten and right to erasure, okay, so you see this particular thing that first of all we have in the global context, there is GDPR, European Union. General data protection rules are there now in European Union, which they brought in 2018. And whenever data privacy is concerned, whenever the data privacy or the rights of the citizens in the advent of digital platforms is concerned, always European Union's GDPR name you will find. So GDPR fine of European Union, it has provided the right to erasure of the personal data, Under some specific conditions it have provided. It has not provided a blanket absolute right here. Also, there are some other countries that are there, for example, Turkey, Spain, England, Russia. Okay, so as a part of right to privacy, they also provide the right to erasure. Okay, right to erasure in limited capacity. Now, guys, when we talk about India, in India, right to erasure has not specifically provided in the data protection in the Privacy Act that recently got passed. Now, it is not a statutory right. It is not provided by the law, but it could be interpreted broadly as the part of right to privacy that was recognized in the Puttaswamy case. Right, that was recognized in the Puttaswamy case. Moreover, when we talk about the right to erasure or right to be forgotten, it has been upheld at multiple occasions. For example, Delhi High Court upheld the right to be forgotten. Fine, and basically, you see this particular thing that Me Too movement. What was this Me Too movement? So around the time of 2017, Me Too movement came to the peak. Now, Me Too movement was an online movement where women came on social media and they told the stories about the sexual harassment that they have faced. Now, some of the stories they were made private, some of information was hidden. Now, when they were being re-uploaded, when they were being again they were being re-uploaded. So at that point of a time, it was said that under right to be forgotten, such kind of things cannot be re-uploaded. So right to be forgotten here was here was recognized. Also, there is one more judgment, that is the Jorwar Singh Mundi versus Union of India case. In this particular case, what happened? Now, this particular case concerned an American citizen and right to be forgotten was given. So the judgment that was passed in the context of Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. So NDPS Act, okay, it basically it criminalizes and it mentions about the offenses of drug trafficking, drug trade, etc. So in that context, there was a judgment. So on request, it was said that the judgment will not be put in the public domain. Okay, so here the right to erasure or right to be forgotten has been provided. Now, when we talk about India, I told you that there is no statutory right in this particular thing, number one. However, right to be forgotten, can be taken up from the Article 21. What is important? Basically, it can ensure confidentiality and can protect the sensitive information. Okay. Moreover, you see this particular thing, that right to reputation has already been recognized. So sometimes to safeguard one's reputation, a person might want that some information should not be there in the public domain. So in that particular right, it is something that is to be given. But at the same time, there are certain challenges and certain criticisms that we have here. Now, what are the challenges and criticisms? The biggest challenge that comes in this particular capacity is this, that it might go against the right to information. Now, under Article number 19, fundamental right, now you see this particular thing, there are multiple judgment of Supreme Court. For example, there is Bennett-Coleman case, there is an state of UP versus Raj Narayan case, there is Mr. Kulwal versus Jaipur Municipal Corporation case. In all these particular judgments, again I'll repeat, Bennett-Coleman case. Again I'll repeat, Bennett-Coleman case. Okay. Raj Narayan case, Kulwal versus Jaipur Municipal Corporation case. In all these particular case, Supreme Court has already recognized that the right to know is intrinsic. Right to know is very crucial for right to speech and expression, because sometimes your speech and expression might not be possible if you don't know first. So right to know is important. So therefore, what happened? Right to information, it will come in conflict with that. But again, one more counter argument comes here. And the counter argument that comes here is that information could be sought for public authority. We have RTI Act 2005. Now, RTI Act, from where you can ask information as a right? From public authorities. So there section 2H of RTI Act provides for public authority. So anyhow, if information about the private players or private people is not being given, then that will not be a very big challenge. Okay. Then after that, what it will lead to? It will restrict the freedom of media. Journalists. Now, many number of times, in order to expose the bigger corruptions, bigger scandals, they need to dig up the personal stories because the things are often interconnected. So basically, the journalist freedom of investigative journalism, it might get impacted. So basically, what can be the way forward? How this particular entire matter can be approached? So way forward is that number one, we need to make suitable amendments in Article 19 subclause 2. We need to make suitable amendments in Article 19 subclause 2. Let's understand this particular thing. Now, Article 19 subclause 2 talks about the reasonable restriction. Right now, reasonable in the ground of reasonable restriction, privacy is not mentioned as a reasonable restriction. So mention the ground of privacy within the reasonable restriction, and then there can be the right to be forgotten that can be given. Then after that, we need to provide it as a statutory right, legal right. Okay, legal right. Moreover, Justice Shri Krishna Committee, it provided to ensure harmony between privacy and freedom of expression. In fact, that provided it. Okay. Also, what is to be done? We need to ensure this particular thing. We need to ensure this particular thing that in the digital age, if right to be forgotten is not given. Now you see, social media is characterized by perpetual memory. Social media is characterized by perpetual memory. Okay, so whatever is there on the social media, it stays there. It stays there. Okay. So the next article that we have here is Disaster Management Amendment Bill 2024. Disaster Management Amendment Bill 2024. So basically, what has happened recently, Disaster Management Amendment Bill 2024 was in news. So therefore, I am covering this particular article. Now, basically, what this particular bill provides, first of all, before going in this, let's take some basic background information. Now, guys, India is facing extreme climatic events in the form of flood, in the form of tsunami, in the form of landslides. If you remember, recently there were so many landslides that came in Himachal Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand. There were the flooding incidents. Today, urban flooding has become a major concern. We have seen that tragic incident that happened in Delhi Old Rajendra Nagar, where 3 UPSC CSE aspirants drowned. Okay, this was really tragic and heart-wrenching incident. Now, why that happened? Because water entered in the basement of a coaching institute. Why that happened? It happened because of the urban flooding that happened in that particular location. So today, in order to deal with the flooding and all the disasters, it has been provided that there is a need to create urban disaster management authority. Now, this urban disaster management authority will be established for the state capitals and large cities. So, right now, for large cities, for municipal, for metropolitan cities, there has to be a dedicated. There will be a fine. There will be a dedicated authority. There will be a dedicated authority. Now, further moving on in this particular direction. Basically, this suggestion was given by the 15th Finance Commission as well. This suggestion was given by the 15th Finance Commission as well, that such a dedicated body is to be established. Now, what are the other features? Number one, there will be a disaster database that will be created. So there will be a national as well as a state level database. Now, these state level database and national database will have meticulous details with respect to the disaster, with respect to the vulnerability that occurred, the impact of that disaster. So all now that can be an important thing for the evidence-based decision making. Then there will be the disaster plans. So basically, what will happen here? Okay, so there will be the disaster plans. There will be the microscopic disaster plan, national, state, then disaster plans at the level of city will be created, and they will be reviewed regularly. Okay, urban authority. So urban disaster management authority for the state capitals and major cities, that already we have discussed. Okay, then also statutory recognition, legal recognition to National Crisis Management Committee. So that it is given more teeth, so that it can approve the finances, so that it can approve the resources which are needed in the times of crisis. Okay, and then basically state government will establish state disaster response force to improve the local disaster response capabilities. Okay, so this is something. However, I will not recommend you to go a lot more in detail in this particular thing, because by the time a bill is converted in act, a lot of changes they do come, a lot of hairline details they get changed. So therefore, I will not advise you to go too much in detail in this particular thing. Okay, now moving on. Next article that we have here is on Northern Sea Route. Northern Sea Route. Okay, now this article, Northern Sea Route. Now, before first of all going in this particular article, let's see some basic information. Let's see some basic information. Now, guys, when we talk about the Northern Sea Route happens to be an alternative sea route. Just a minute. Fine. Okay. Just a minute. Let it get cleared. Okay. Now, guys, you see this particular thing. You see this particular thing. That is for the trade. I hope it is visible to all of you. Just a minute. Give me 1 minute just. Okay. So basically, if we see, guys, here, first of all, if we want to trade, okay, first of all, okay, so okay, so here, if you see, here we have India, here we have St. Petersburg. Now, this is the existing route if trade is to be carried. This is the existing route if the trade is to be carried. Now, this particular trade route goes through Suez Canal. This particular trade route goes through Suez Canal, and this particular trade route happens to be a very longer trade route. Now, Northern Sea Route will come from the Arctic region. Northern Sea Route will come from the Arctic region, Bering Strait, and this particular sea route, happens to be a very viable strategy for Russia to connect with the Asia. Now, if you just see from the point of view of Russia today, if Russia wants to trade with the Asian markets, it has to come from this particular sea route. It has come to from this particular sea route. But Northern Sea Route will drastically reduce this particular distance. Northern Sea Route will drastically reduce this particular distance. Okay, so therefore, Northern Sea Route is something which is an important thing, and how India is also going to benefit by the Northern Sea Route. That is we are going to discuss. Now, first of all, guys, when we talk about Arctic region, now this Northern Sea Route will pass from Arctic region. Arctic region has been basically Arctic region has been under ice. Okay, but now as global temperature is going up, so ice that was there in Arctic region, this particular ice is now melting. And also because Russia has acquired nuclear powered icebreaker ships, now they are able to create viable sea route in less time with less cost associated. Moreover, Arctic region in itself has a lot of untapped natural resources. It has a lot of untapped natural resources. So when we talk about the Northern Sea Route, so basically you see 40% of the world's untapped hydrocarbon, fine, which are very much crucial for India's energy security, they are contained there. Okay, and the most important resources that are there in this particular region, they are coal, gypsum, diamond, rare earth minerals, they are in the Arctic region. So India has always been interested in stay in Arctic region. India has also been interested in drilling of the Arctic region without tampering with the environment around the Arctic region. And when we talk about India's engagement in the Arctic region, so India's engagement in Arctic region has been historical since 1920. So in 1920, there was the Svalbard Treaty that was signed with respect to the Arctic region. Now, since 1920, India has maintained active presence in Arctic region, and also there is the Himadri Research Station that is there. Also, in the Arctic Council meetings, also India has regularly participated. Fine. Moreover, when we talk about the environmental importance of Arctic regions is very important for global climate patterns. Okay, melting of Arctic ice is a bigger threat, but if that particular thing can be managed, and if sustainably Arctic region sustainably Arctic region can be managed, it can lead to a lot of economic benefits for India. Okay. Now the Northern Sea route, this Northern Sea route would be around 5,600 kilometer route. That path already I have shown you. Okay. So when we talk about the Northern Sea route, so Northern Sea route will be a 5,600 kilometer route. Okay, it will be a 5,600 kilometer route. It will be starting from Murmansk. Okay, it will be starting from Murmansk. Okay, and it will replace the existing sea route that is there. Okay, it is very much important for connecting traditional route that has been there. Now, when we talk about Russia, Russia is now bringing the navigability. Okay, it is trying to navigate through the Northern Sea route. Now, India's engagement with Northern Sea route. So, what has happened in the past in the past 5-6 years, particularly post 2018, India has got actively involved in the Northern Sea routes, and a lot of shipments that India is carrying with the Russia, they are preferring the Northern Sea route. And if we see, there has been a quantum increase, fine by 73% between 2018 to 2022. Also, Russia's important crude oil, coal, they are coming from the Northern Sea route. And in fact, Chennai-Vladivostok Maritime Corridor has also been started, which will be connecting India and Russia for economic trade route. And there also, Northern Sea route is going to be used. Now, when we talk about this particular thing, when we talk about the Northern Sea route will be very much crucial. It will basically bring the ease of transportation, but at the same time, India has to balance, because too much cooperation, too much economic collaboration with Russia sometimes it goes against the India-US relation. Also, India also aims to balance the influence of China and Russia over the Northern Sea route. Okay. So in this particular capacity, now what happens? Russia is planning to boost the cargo capacity by 2035. India needs to involve in this particular region actively, but India should not end up playing the second fiddle to Russia or China or any other country. India has to ensure its autonomy as well. Okay, that is all about it. And now we'll move to next article. Defending disability reservation. So recently, guys, this thing happened. Now this article will take with respect to GS paper number 2, social justice. Now recently there was this incident happened where a woman, fine, she used fake disability certificates. To get IAS rank, to get the IA, to enter in the civil services, and she even got the posting as an IAS officer. After that, what has happened? A lot of backlash has come, and many people are saying that entire PWD reservation is to be removed. Now, removing PWD reservation might not be the right thing. In fact, one of Niti Aayog's official has suggested that there is a need to review the PWD reservation, particularly the mental disabilities. Now, first of all, guys, understand this particular thing, that whether we should review it or whether we should not review it. For that, some basic things, first of all, will be understanding. Now, you see this particular thing, that first of all, when we approach disability, there is United Nations Convention on Rights of Person with Disabilities. Now, this particular convention has been signed by India. Also, there are some other frameworks that we have. Now, why I am telling you, just give me 1 minute, you'll understand that. Then there are some other international frameworks also that are there. For example, there is Bivako Millennium Framework. Is there. There is Incheon Strategy. And then there are sustainable development goals. There are sustainable development goals. So, United Nation Convention on Rights of Person with Disabilities, Bivako Millennium Framework Goal, Incheon Strategy, and Sustainable Development Goals we have. Now, all of them, what they talk about? They talk about creating inclusive barrier-free society. They talk about creating inclusive barrier-free society. Inclusive barrier-free society. Okay, very good. Inclusive barrier-free society. Moreover, they say that we need to move from medical model of disability to social model of disability. What they say? They say that we need to move from medical model of disability to social model of disability. We need to move from medical model of disability to the social model of disability. Now, what is medical model of disability? Medical model of disability sees a disability just as a medical biological condition. But the social model of disability goes beyond that. Social model of disability goes beyond that. Social model of disability sees that disabilities sometimes lead to certain discriminations. It leads to some deprivations, and therefore those deprivations, etc., are also to be are also to be eradicated. So any disability law, any disability policy, if a country comes out with, then that disability policy, disability law has also to deal with the uh, disabilities and discriminations that are there. In this particular line, the case of reservation now comes. Now case of reservation comes. Why we are giving reservation? We are giving reservation because of the fact that their disabilities might give them a kind of a disadvantage, and because of that they will never be able to get proper representation. So this is the reason that reservation has been given. Now when we talk about the reservation, as of now, we have now, in fact, after we signed this United Nations Convention on Right of Person with Disabilities, after we signed this, what happened? India has come out with Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016. Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016. We came out with this. Okay. It provides that at least 4% reservation is to be provided to disabled people in government job. Earlier reservation was 3%. Now it got increased to 4% through this Right of Person with Disabilities Act. So 4% jobs in government are reserved for disabled people. Okay. This is something that has happened. This is something that has happened here already. Now, what is the issue? Issue is that one of our Niti Aayog officials suggested that these reservations are to be reviewed. Reservations are to be reviewed. First of all, we need to see that what are the challenges that are faced by a person with disability. Number one, lack of accessible infrastructure and education. Okay. This can be called as the problem of poorly designed world. This can be called as problem of poorly designed world. Schools, buildings are not accessible. If they are accessible, basically many number of times they fail to provide. Now you see the people having visual disability, people having cognitive disability. How many school and colleges you can recall specially meant for them? If they are there, often they are not at a walkable distance. They are very far away. There are private institutions which charge a lot of fees. So point is that availability of education is not there for them. If that is available, they are not accessible properly. And then we say that they should and then what we say that they should compete with the general people without any reservation. That is not going to be equity. That will be wrong. Secondly, even in workplace, they are not accommodated. There is a lot of social stigma against disabled people. Okay. There are biases that are there. Now, basically, we find also this particular thing that there is a deep rooted ableism. Now, what we always think from the mind, we always think from the perspective of an able-bodied person. Because now you see, in fact, when we talk about parliament, how many MPs and ministers you can recall in parliament who have some discernible, who have the disability? So many number of times the policy makers, they fail to take in account the perspective of the disabled people. So there is a kind of an ableism. In policy making. Okay. Ableism in policy making. Then after that, criticism of generalization. Okay. So what is this? criticism of generalization. Often what happen, one or two people who have misused a policy, we think that everyone misuses it, and just because one or two people have misused it, we question that entire policy. Okay, yes, reservation has been misused by one person or few other person, but that is not the reason to question entire policy. That is not the reason to question entire policy. Rather, problem that is there is in the certification system. Reservation policy is not problematic, but the problematic is the certification that is being given. In the case that we just mentioned, what happened? Authorities were not able to certify properly that whether this person should be given or not. Okay, now when we talk about the present system, what it does, it focuses on the percentage of disability and not on the functional limitation. Okay, not on the functional limitation. So that is wrong. It needs to be changed. It needs to be changed. Moreover, if we talk about the employment rate, now you see this particular thing. According to National Sample Survey, 23.8% of person with disabilities were employed compared to national employment rate of 50.2%. You see half. You see it is half. So employment rate is just 23.2%. Quarter people are employed. So for that, it is very much important to give them level playing field with the help of reservation. Okay, educational barriers are already we have discussed. So therefore, what is needed? We need to ensure that fraudulent use should not be there. So first of all, the issue of these, now as these certificates are being issued, government organization, basically the authorities need to ensure that objective assessment is being done, and when these certificates are being furnished to the employment bodies or to the organization wherever they are being given, they need to testify, they need to verify them also. Okay, fine, moving on. Global struggle for a pandemic treaty. Global struggle for a pandemic treaty. So basically what is happening, 77th World Health Assembly, 77th World Health Assembly recently, okay, fine, okay, what has happened? 77th World Health Assembly recently has agreed to enhance the cooperation and coordination for health emergencies. First of all, what is World Health Assembly? So you might be knowing about WHO, World Health Organization. So highest decision making body in the WHO is World Health Assembly, is the World Health Assembly. And recently the session of World Health Assembly was held. Recently the session of World Health Assembly was held. Now 2020 we have seen COVID pandemic, and post COVID pandemic these particular suggestions have been given by multiple bodies including the Lancet Health Journal, by WHO, that now the pandemics will be closely placed. Last pandemic was in 1920, fine, Spanish influenza. 2020 pandemic was after 100 years. But now, because of the emergence of zoonotic diseases, there might be more pandemics that would be there. There might be more pandemics that would be there. So we need to be prepared. And therefore, global pandemic treaty comes in picture. Now, this global pandemic treaty is being negotiated, fine, it is being negotiated, and now we see that there is World Health Assembly has agreed to introduce a pandemic emergency treaty. Now we need to understand that what is this pandemic treaty. Beyond that we need not to go. So number one, this pandemic treaty, it talks about the pandemic access and benefit sharing. Now you see this particular thing. During a pandemic, there was this issue of vaccine nationalism that was there in the news. Now, what is this vaccine nationalism? So, large number of countries, they procured maximum vaccines for their own people. Large number of countries, they procured maximum vaccine for their own people. WHO says that if rich countries will procure maximum vaccines for their own people, it will not lead to vaccine equity. Poor people might not be able to avail the vaccines. It might go against the principle of vaccine equity. This is a problematic thing. That we have. So therefore, number one, there should be fair distribution of vaccine, diagnostic kits and devices. Priority should be given to the low and middle income countries for the vaccine, because many of them might not be able to afford it. Wealthy nation should provide the resources to middle income countries, poor countries. Then next is barriers in technology sometimes hinder the pandemic response. For example, suppose there is a vaccine. Suppose there is a vaccine that has been finalized. Now, this particular vaccine might not reach the public because there might be the patent that has been taken by some of a pharmaceutical company. Okay, many number of a times. Now, if we talk about the India, in India, there is a compulsory licensing that we have. Now, what is this compulsory licensing? So, through this compulsory licensing, India can allow the generic manufacturers to make the same drug or some vaccine that is there. We can open the patent through using the compulsory licensing provision that we have in India. Similar provisions other countries also have. But if they'll do that, then the Western countries will file the case under WTO saying that this is unfair, etc. So this should not happen. This should not happen. Technological barriers should not be brought in between now. Fine, there is a need to reform the TRIPS agreement. Okay, because now TRIPS agreement is under WTO, okay, which restricts it. Then One Health approach. Now, whenever the question on One Health comes, just one thing you need to do. Whenever there is One Health question that comes, make this particular diagram always. What is One Health? Now, here in between, One Health is there. Now, you see this thing. Concept of One Health provides this particular thing. Concept of One Health simply provides this particular thing, that health of animal, health of human, health of environment are all connected. Here, in between, where the animal is healthy, human is healthy, and environment is healthy, here the One Health will be achieved. You cannot keep human healthy in isolation. Human will not be healthy until and unless environment is not healthy, until and unless animals are not healthy. So One Health provides the integrated approach of health towards environment, animal, and human. Okay. Now, so it promotes One Health concept, and then global cooperation and equity. Global cooperation and equity is to be promoted during the time of pandemic. So it is needed that the countries should come together and should have a collective policy, should have cooperative arrangements in the time of pandemic, which they should utilize. Now, moving on in this particular direction, India and China manufacturing team. Now, guys, you see this particular thing, that when India and China is concerned, often now the perception is such that whenever the India and China is concerned, the article will have a kind of a confrontationist kind of a tone. But this particular article, rather than talking on confrontationist tone, it is talking about enhancing cooperation between India and China. Now, what this particular article says? Article says that if India and China can collaborate on trade, it will be a win-win situation for both. Let's understand this particular thing. Post 2020, what has happened? As COVID pandemic started, at that point of a time, Donald Trump outrightly said that it is because of the China deliberately has spread the virus. That they said one thing. Then after that, a movement got started of decoupling and de-risking. In this decoupling movement, Western countries, rich countries, developed countries, they started saying that we want to disassociate from the China. And manufacturing companies from China, they started moving in the other countries. Because of that, China as manufacturing power has suffered a lot. Now, it is provided that actually what can be done? India and China can come together. So basically, India can import certain components from China, can import the components from China, can finish it, can process it, and then final finished processed good can be exported to the Western countries. And in between, it will be a win-win position for India. Now, if we see, basically US-China relation after the 2008 has impacted the global trade. Their relation is not stable. Even the Trump tariff war, Okay, so what has happened in the Trump era? Trump era, relation between China and USA got impacted. But US needs the crucial supplies. So they can be provided by India, and at the back end, India can take the support of China. India can take the support of China. Now, in fact, we already have the systems established. For example, production linked incentive scheme we already brought. What is this production linked incentive scheme? In production linked incentive scheme, we give incentive to the manufacturing facilities so that they start manufacturing in India. We give incentive to electronics, we give incentives even now to semiconductors also, we are giving incentives. Mobile manufacturing units, we are giving incentives. And what is happening? Large number of manufacturers are actually coming and are setting up their production in India. Now, big Chinese firms, big Chinese manufacturers, they can be attracted in India through this PLI scheme, because anyhow they are suffering the market because the Western perception is not good towards the China. So this can be a good collaboration. Also, it says that joint ventures between India and Chinese firm can also be started. Okay, so Chinese brand like Xiaomi, they have started their manufacturing in India. Okay, and it is being called as a trampoline game. Okay, so manufacturers from trampoline. What is a trampoline? Trampoline is one on which you jump. Okay, so companies are coming jumping from China to India. From India, they are making goods, and those goods are then being sent to US. So this is a trampoline game between the US, China, and India. So from China, companies come to India. From India, they supply the goods to US. So this is something that can be done. So what is needed? Number one, we need to enhance collaboration. Joint ventures between India and China are to be promoted. Moreover, basically, government to government collaboration, collaboration between business units, business sector, it is also to be enhanced. The next, PLI scheme is to be leveraged. It needs to be modified. More financial outlays are to be provided to PLI scheme. Then trade barriers that are there, they are needed to be addressed. Okay, infrastructure, obviously to invest infrastructure, to invest the investment, what is needed? It is needed that then we need to have adequate infrastructure. Okay, and the strategic partnership can be signed. So this is, guys, all about it. Now, moving on. Here we have one. Here I have given you two questions from the mains perspective. Now let's read the question. Question says, analyze the importance of reservation for person with disabilities in India. Discuss the challenges faced by person with disabilities and suggest measures to improve the effectiveness of disability certificate system. Discuss the need for a global pandemic treaty in the wake of COVID-19. Evaluate the core issues it aims to address, such as equitable resource distribution and international cooperation, and suggest ways to overcome challenges. Okay, so two questions. Both the questions will be 15 marker, 15 mark, 250 words. Okay, so guys, I hope that you have understood it, and I also expect that you have liked this particular initiative also of integrating the mains answer. Suggest if you like it, will continue it, not a problem. So guys, that is all for this particular dimension. Now, moving on, the next part that we have in this particular session, it is for the prelims. So now we are going to discuss the prelim specific articles. Now we are going to discuss the prelim specific articles. Now, a minute. Okay, moving on, guys. So first article that we have here, it is with respect to The integrated disease surveillance program. Integrated disease surveillance program. So recently, integrated disease surveillance program was in news because basically the data was reported in the Lok Sabha that it has recorded these many diseases outbreaks, and the Kerala had recorded the highest number of outbreaks. So what is this integrated disease surveillance program? Now you see this particular thing, that integrated disease surveillance program, it is an online it is an online database which contains the information about the disease outbreaks. You see this particular thing. If we talk about the COVID pandemic, so there were initial outbreaks. There were initial outbreaks that initially were reported in the China around the Wuhan region. But what happened, for a very long period of time, those particular outbreaks were not noted. Those particular outbreaks were not noted. A careful attention was not paid to them. By the time the focus was made, it was very much late. So if we can track any outbreak in initial times, we can take remedial steps and damage could be controlled. Damage could be controlled. So for that, we have this integrated disease surveillance program. It is a decentralized and state-based surveillance system. It was established way back in 2004 and it is initiative of which ministry? Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Also for this program, assistance has been given by World Bank. For this particular program, assistance has been given by World Bank. Now what happens in this particular program? So basically different states, they are given a list of the diseases and they have to notify to this integrated disease surveillance program that how many outbreaks have happened. So it is an IT enabled disease surveillance system. Weekly reports on disease outbreaks have to be submitted. If no disease outbreak of a particular category was there, they'll say that no outbreak occurred. Now basically what is the benefit of this? So whenever there are rising number of outbreaks, when there are the rising number of outbreaks, what can be done? Rapid response teams. Okay, so there are the rapid response team. There are the RRTs, that is the rapid response teams. They'll come and they'll investigate and diagnose that particular matter. Is it clear? Fine. E-Upahar portal. So recently it was in news. What is E-Upahar portal? So it is a for journals, basically current affairs trivia kind of a question can be there. That E-Upahar portal was in news, but it is. So this is an online portal which has been started for Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now President of India, President receives a lot of gifts. Rashtrapati Bhavan receives a lot of gift. Now what to do of these particular gifts? Because there are hundreds and thousands of gifts that are being received in 1 year. Okay, and the gifts belong to the office, not to the person. Gifts belong to the office and not to the person. So this idea is there that these particular gifts will be auctioned through an online platform. And this particular online platform, this is the E-Upahar. Online platform is the E-Upahar. So what is E-Upahar? It is an auction portal created by President's Secretariat to auction the gifts received by the President and the former presidents. Okay, so who has conceptualized it and who will be running it? So it has been conceptualized and designed by the NIC, National Informatics Center. And National Informatics Center is under which? National Informatics Center. The National Informatics Center is under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Okay. Now I hope that the voice is clear. I got a message that the voice issue was there. I hope that this is clear now. Okay, no issues. Whenever there is some issue that comes, you please let me know. We'll take the remedial steps. Next, we have National Policy for Rare Disease. So why recently National Policy for Rare Disease was in news? Because it was provided that, see, out of 12 Center of Excellence, only four have utilized the government funds that were provided for them. Now, what is rare disease? See, rare disease is any disease which infects very less number of people. Now, if a disease is infecting less number of people, that is a good thing. But here it becomes problem. Why it becomes problem? Because these diseases infect so less people that pharmaceutical companies often don't have incentive to make medicines and therapies for these kind of diseases. If they will make, now you see, pharmaceutical company, what they do? They make a drug, they make a therapy, they make a medicine. That medicine or drug, now in that particular drug, salt that is being used is not that expensive. A large money that goes, it is in the research. It is in the research. And if a large many people are going to buy that particular drug, they will recover that particular research by these people. So suppose the salt was of 1 rupee, then 2 rupee for research, 3 rupee drug they will sell. Okay. But if there are very few people for who need a particular medicine or who need a particular drug, number one, that company will not have incentive to make it. If they want to make it, then because there are very less number of customers, the existing customers, whoever will buy, they have to pay a lot of price. So there is a disease, spinal muscular atrophy, and the medicine for that is 16 crore rupees. Can you imagine that middle class person affording it? Not possible. Now you see this particular thing, there is national policy for rare disease. Now when we talk about national policy for rare disease, now this particular policy, first of all, has divided the rare disease in 3 groups, 3 categories. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. Now Group 1 are those rare diseases which can be treated by some one-time therapy, one-time surgery, etc. Okay. Then Group 2, diseases which will require lifelong treatment, lifelong therapy. There is some lifelong treatment or therapy that is to be taken, which is not that high cost, but the disease can be treated. So this is Group 2 or Category 2. Then there is Group 3. So basically they can be treated. Definite treatment is there, but they have very high cost. Cost is so high that identifying the person who will get it and the one who will not get it, it is difficult. You cannot give to all. You have to give to few people, but how to identify that? That is a big problem. Now government has provided that they'll create centers of excellence. Now what are these centers of excellence? Centers of excellence are specialized medical facility which will help in diagnosis, prevention and treatment of rare disease. These center of excellence will receive a one-time grant of up to 5 crore rupees by the government so that they can develop the infrastructure. Now 12 centers of excellence was approved, but up till now only 4 have used this particular funding. So point is that implementation of this particular scheme is not that much effective. Okay. So benefit excess of patients can approach the center of excellence and can get assessment, can get the benefit Nidan Kendras for genetic testing, and then the research and development will be taken up. The next is Bohai Gulf. So basically guys, Bohai Gulf is in China. Okay, Bohai Gulf is in China. It is at the Yellow Sea. So let me show you also. Okay. Okay, so here Yellow Sea is there and you can see the Bohai Gulf. Okay, fine. Now, why we are discussing the Bohai Gulf? So basically what has happened, UNESCO has recently added China's migratory bird sanctuary. Now, where this migratory bird sanctuary, it is along the Yellow Sea Bohai Gulf. Okay, so Yellow Sea, it makes a gulf. Fine. And this Yellow Sea, at the Yellow Sea, this gulf, that is the Bohai Gulf, it has been added into the World Heritage Site list. So the Bohai Gulf, it is also called as Bohai Sea or Bohai. Fine. Beyond that, nothing much you need to go in. Then next is JUICE mission, Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer mission. It was in news. Now, what is this JUICE mission? Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer mission. Now, this is the mission by European Space Agency, which will investigate the Jupiter and 3 of the moons of largest moon of Jupiter, which have the traces of ice. Therefore, they are called as the Jupiter Icy Moon mission. Now, Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede. Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede are three of the most important and the big moons of Jupiter, which have the traces of ice. They will be investigated by this European Space Agency JUICE mission. So mission will investigate the potential for life in the space and will also study Jupiter's magnetic belt, radiation. Okay, so this is about it. Fine. Next we have here is Nipun Bharat Abhiyan. Nipun Bharat mission, Nipun Bharat Abhiyan. Now, what is this Nipun Bharat mission, Nipun Bharat Abhiyan? Now you see this particular thing. Let me give you one reference. So in India, learning outcomes are not very good. Learning outcomes are not very good. According to annual status of education report, which is released by Pratham NGO, annual status of education report released by Pratham NGO. Now, the latest 2023 report that was released, it said that 25% of children in the age of 14 to 18, 25% is a very big number. 25% children in the age group of 14 to 18, they cannot read basic text. So, learning outcome is very poor. To improve that, national education policy said that we need to bring a dedicated scheme. And this Nipun Bharat Abhiyan has come. Nipun Bharat Abhiyan has come. Okay. Now, what is this Nipun Bharat Abhiyan? Now, who has launched it? It has been launched by the Ministry of Education. Now, it will focus on the children between the age 3 to 9 and preschool to grade 3. Preschool to grade 3. They will be given basic foundational literacy and numeracy skills. So that they can identify the basic, they can identify digits, they can identify alphabets. So, foundational literacy and numeracy skills will be given to them. Now, the idea is to achieve the foundational literacy and numeracy by 26-27, and it will be applicable to government aided as well as private schools. So, this is important that you need to know that even the private schools are included here. Okay. What it will focus? Teacher capacity. Teacher capacity is very important, because if teacher don't have capacity to inculcate pedagogy, if their pedagogical skills are not good, then the teachers will not be effective. So teachers pedagogy component is there. Okay. Teachers capacity building is there. Teacher capacity building is there. Access and retention of children in foundational year of schooling. High quality diverse student and teacher resources. Next is Parak. Next we have is Parak was in news. So what happened? A report was submitted to the Ministry of Education, suggested that which talked about the Parak. Now, what is Parak? So guys, again, recommendation of Parak. Again, the recommendation of Parak was made in this. Again, the recommendation of Parak was made in the National Education Policy 2020. Now, you see this particular thing, that when we talk about the boards in the school education, there is a CBSE board, there is state boards that are there are ICSE boards that are there. Different boards have entirely different assessment metrics, assessment parameters. Many number of a time there is this perception that getting marks in CBSE board is easy, but getting marks in some state board is difficult. This perception is there. Why? Because assessment parameter, assessment criteria in the board examination is very much different. So therefore, what happened? Parak was launched. Now this Parak stands for Performance Assessment Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development. Performance Assessment Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development. Now this initiative is under the NCERT. What it will do? It will standardize the school board system. Okay. It will standardize assessment. It will standardize the school board system. What is the primary objective? To set norms, standards, guidelines as how the school assess, how the students assessment, how the examination assessment is to be done. This is the goal of Parak. Then moving on, after that we have here Achanak Mar Tiger Reserve. So Achanak Mar Tiger Reserve was in news because tiger population has increased here. So recently All India Tiger Estimation Census data was released, and this All India Tiger Estimation Census says that there is a significant rise in the tiger population, which has increased from 5 to 10. Now, this Achanak Mar Tiger Reserve, it is located in Chhattisgarh. It is the initially it was a wildlife sanctuary, then later it got converted in tiger reserve in 2010. and it is the part of Achanakmar Amarkantak Biosphere Reserve. Achanakmar Amarkantak Biosphere Reserve. Okay, also it links Kana and Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. The next one, nano-mind technology. Nano-mind technology. So what is this nano-mind technology? So recently, nano-mind technology was in news. Why? Because recently, researchers at the Korean Institute have used this particular nano-mind technology in the mice. Now, this particular technology, there is, now what can be done? This particular technology can help in controlling the complex brain functions. Now in our brain, now see, we have not been able to understand the working of brain up till now. We have not been able to understand the working of brain up till now. Now you see this particular thing, that there are different parts of our brain which are responsible for emotion, memory, cognition, appetite, okay, why you feel hungry, why you feel craving, different brain functions are involved there. Now what have been done? So through this particular technology, basically modulation, controlling of brain circuits have been done. So what has happened? So they can control the brain circuits and can manipulate a person's response. Now what happened? They use this particular technology on mice and increase the appetite of mice, change their feeding behavior. Okay. Also, they also try to reduce their appetite. Why? By manipulating the brain circuitry. So this particular technology can be used in the case of the humans also. Particularly, fine, there are the, okay, in brain computer interface, in neurological disorders, it can be used. Exercise Tarang Shakti. So exercise Tarang Shakti is in news because this is the biggest ever exercise that is being initiated. 51 countries are invited, around 30 will join it. So India is set to host the international air exercise Tarang Shakti. So invitation has been given to 51 countries, okay, and it will held in two phases, one phase in Tamil Nadu and then in Rajasthan. So strategic knowledge, tactical knowledge sharing between the countries will be done. Who is hosting it? India is hosting it. Okay. So phase 1 will be from August 6 to August 14. Dates are not important. Where it will be held? Tamil Nadu. And countries will participate: France, Germany, Spain, UK. And the second phase will be in Rajasthan, and here Australia, Bangladesh, Greece, Singapore, UAE, US, they'll participate. Okay. Next is pumped storage hydropower. Now, recently in the budget that was announced, pumped storage hydropower was discussed. Here. Money was given for the pumped storage hydropower. Now, what does this pumped storage hydropower is all about? Let's understand this thing. Now, basically, if you see, we use solar power. But solar power has a limitation. When at the night sun is not there, how you will make electricity? Solar power has a problem. You can store that power in batteries. But battery infrastructure in India is not there. Okay, having that many batteries is a problem. So what is this pumped storage hydropower? So what you can do? There is one reservoir here and one reservoir here at a height. So during the day, what do? You use solar energy for a lot of other purposes, but the excess solar energy that we have, because we don't have battery, we cannot store it. Excess solar energy, what it can be done? That solar energy can be used to send water from this reservoir to this reservoir. From the reservoir at lower elevation, the water will be sent to the reservoir at an upper elevation. And at night, water will come from here to here. And as water will come from here to here, it will generate the hydropower. That hydropower can be used at the night. So it has pumped storage hydropower, uses two water reservoirs situated at different elevation, and during period of excess electricity, okay, surplus energy is used to pump water from lower to upper, and from upper the water will flow to the lower, and at that point of a time electricity can be made. The next we have is women entrepreneurship program. So recently, National Skill Development Corporation has launched this women entrepreneurship program. Okay, and as the name is very clear, so it aims to enhance the women entrepreneurship. So 2.5 million women, they will be provided basic essential skills, knowledge, resources, etc., so that they can explore entrepreneurship. Okay, and free courses will be provided. Next we have here is surrogate advertising. Now recently what has happened, Health Ministry has instructed Sports Authority of India, or BCCI, to implement measures to prevent surrogate advertising of tobacco and alcohol related products by athletes. Now what is this surrogate advertising? So many number of times, guys, now you see, according to the COTPA Act, okay, it prohibits the ban of tobacco product. It prohibits the ad of tobacco products. So tobacco products could not be advertised. As per the COTPA Act. But still, you find that there will be the ad. For example, tobacco products are being advertised. The name is same, but they are advertising that, okay, we are not advertising pan masala, gutka, we are advertising mouth freshener, ilaichi. Sometime ad of alcoholic products are advertised as music CD, as packaged drinking water. All these particular things are there. So these are called as a surrogate advertisement. So what is surrogate advertisement? Advertising alcohol as drinking water, soda, advertising basically tobacco products as mouth freshener or something like that. These are the surrogate ads. So they should not be done by the athletes. Okay. So this is a surrogate ad, and the examples are liquor, tobacco, we have discussed. Then there is INS Shalki, that was in news. INS Shalki, Indian Naval Submarine Shalki. It recently docked at Colombo port in Sri Lanka. Now, INS Shalki, it belongs to Shishu Kumar diesel electric submarine class, and it is the first submarine which was built in India by the Mazgaon Dock Limited. So therefore, it is in news. Now, the next is dark tourism. Now, dark tourism was in news because of the recent Wayanad strategy that happened in Kerala. So basically, what happened recently in Kerala, there was a landslide that happened in Wayanad, and in that landslide, hundreds of people unfortunately died, many more they got injured, and a lot of people are still basically they are still untraceable. And what is happening? People are visiting the Wayanad. To see, okay, that what has happened there. This is a dark tourism. Dark tourism refers to visiting of those sites for tourism which are associated with the trauma, pain, grief, misery. That is the dark tourism. So Kerala police asked people to avoid dark tourism, not to come to the Wayanad, because by that problem in rescue is happening. So dark tourism is also called as black tourism, grief tourism. Okay, and examples of dark tourism is visiting Auschwitz concentration camp, Chernobyl, Ukraine, where nuclear disaster happened, Auschwitz concentration camp, where a large number of Jews, they were died during German Holocaust, Ground Zero of New York, Hiroshima Memorial. Okay, so this is the dark tourism, and dark tourism is controversial. Why? Because people are going there, they are visiting, which are associated with the trauma and pain, and commercial activities that are happening there. They are making money out of the trauma and pain of people. So therefore, the dark tourism is controversial. So that is all, guys, about it. And with this, we came to an end to the session for today. I hope that you have understood it. And now we'll be meeting next week. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.